I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You guys all set?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Jan? Grace, okay?
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed it. I'd like to call this July 29th, Hartland Selectboard.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 5:30. Jan, Grace, okay?
Yes,
First
sir.
order of business are the, I'd like to call this July 29th, Select Board minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a motion 5:30, accept them. Jan, Grace, okay?
Yes,
First
sir.
order of business are the, I'd like to call this July 29th, Select Board minutes. Okay, a motion 5:30, accept them. Jan, Grace, okay?
Yes.
It's under the select board minutes.
Select board. Listed. But later on, I made a motion. I must have been here.
Okay. This virtual stuff, I don't know. Did we have an executive session that night?
We did.
I thought we did too, and we did take, it was Mayor Campbell, so we did take an action.
We did.
Those are submitted.
Yep. Did you? Okay, executive session minutes.
I don't think so. They get submitted.
Yeah. Did it? I have. You did send it to me.
So we can,
All right, I make a motion, we table the executive, session minutes till next time.
I'll second that.
Do you hear that, folks? I tabled the executive session minutes till next time, since we didn't get them in our packet.
John, in the town manager update, you had mentioned that the top of Shoot Road was going to be paved.
Yep.
Should we add that just for documentation purposes? And the bid for paving this year is getting worked on.
I'm not sure if timing wise, we knew that at the time. That was I think that this is reflective of the discussion we had at that time. We've since learned that we're doing more.
Some minor points. Says Old Homes Day instead of Old Home Day. Under the manager's notes.
Any other observations, changes? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thanks, Clyde, or Kurt, or Fred.
See who's
Sounded like Kurt.
It sounded like Kurt, yes.
we're going to mute everybody.
Okay. Moving on to the accounts payable or the orders for today. We just looked at it in the packet, an updated set of orders. So we're talking about invoices through today, 7/29. I would entertain a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Thank you, Clyde. A second. I'll second it. Thank you. Any discussion?
Where's the water fountain?
The library.
Okay, just curious.
The library. So they got a new water fountain with a bottle filling station. There's some, it was installed at an unfortunate height. So we are working with Code Encoded to have it adjusted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just on the orders, I don't recall seeing these in the back.
So we did add, there was a couple late in the day, one specifically for Kurtzalt's excavating who's doing the Janesville project. So we did amend it. So you are seeing those.
Okay, so see one for knots, the 3 forms.
Yes. Yeah, that's the final invoice for Knox for the 3 Corners project. And then they are done.
So I see we have a bill for $29,700 from First Light. Are we gonna be getting more utility bills in the
Yes.
future?
So First Light, that's their final invoice for their
Yeah.
work in the Three Corners. I reached out to Comcast and V.S.A last week, and they both anticipate sending those within this week. And that will be the end of that project then.
So then can we get an accounting of what it all ended up being?
Yes, as soon as we get those final invoices.
And then we were gonna talk about how we we're gonna pay for it, given different funding sources and the like, so, but we never sort of finalized. I think that was before you got here.
Yeah, but we can,
I believe we're gonna be all set.
No, I understand that, it's just where's it coming from
I
and,
believe we're gonna be all set.
Right.
Yeah, but you need, how much was bond, how much was grant?
Right.
How much, if any, came from another source?
correct. And we will, once we get all the final invoices at the next meeting, we can go over that in detail so everybody is satisfied with how it all shook out.
great, thank you.
I believe we're gonna come in under the bond that was taken out by the
That
town.
was surprising, because I thought we were already
No,
at the bond.
we're gonna be over the ball,
Over the bond.
but with the grant money and everything, we're not gonna have to dip into the highway.
So that would still surprise me. I think it'd be a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
It would still surprise me.
We didn't spend all the GPI's money, and we didn't spend all the ours. So,
On page 2,
Yep.
there's the monthly payment to CCI, and then there's a $4,100 yearly license.
Yep, so that's our Microsoft 365 license that we all use. That's the Teams license that we all share. It's an annual payment we make to them.
Okay,
It's largely the Microsoft 365, so that's Outlook, Word, Excel. That's the shared license we all have.
okay.
And when's our contract end with them?
Not until the end of, I believe it is summer of 25.
June, yes.
Wow, okay.
That was a 3-year contract that we signed with them.
Yeah, we'll look at that hard next time around. The fire truck.
The fire truck is ready to be delivered. This was something that the town approved in town meeting of 2022 for up to 172,585. So they came in slightly under budget. It's all ready to go.
And it feels to me that the Woodstock ambulance service, the fees are surging a bit, greater than, I didn't do any research coming back over the past couple of months, but 21,000 for I can't even tell the dates here, if there are dates. 7/1 through 7/22.
So there's an annual payment and there's a payment for calls as well. So that the big chunk is the annual payment that we pay to Woodstock Ambulance.
Okay, just to keep them on retainer.
Yeah, you're right.
And do they provide most of our services, ambulance services?
On that side of town.
Right. Hartford
Harvard
Does-
does this side.
Hartford does this side in Northumberland.
Any other questions, comments, observations? All in favor of approving the orders through July 29th, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Are there any public comments? Yes.
Sherry Clark, I haven't found the Windsor County Sheriff's information on our website. There's just the town constable and the Vermont State Police. I thought it was brought up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can get that put on there this week.
We were gonna do the direct line to them.
Right, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
the line automatically, I mean, there's a non-911 number to
Right.
call.
Yeah.
It automatically goes to Woodstock dispatch.
Yeah, we'll get that taken care of this week.
Thank you. Oh, and thank you to the town crew that did some patching on our road.
We did that today.
Did you get down to Depot too?
I'm not sure exactly where they all went.
There's a couple of ones, but yeah, no, it's much appreciated.
Yeah, I went to the North Hartland Dam to go kayaking on Saturday, and the Windsor County Sheriff's Department was having a barbecue, so I was like,
Get a hot dog out of the deal?
Yeah. Okay. If there are no other public comments, I would like to just take a moment to, way back on 4th of July, I want to thank all the volunteers, the participants, especially the rec department and the rec department steering group or committee for what I thought was a very great Old Home Day celebration. So thank you to all that were involved in putting in an effort. Moving on to new business, we have the dog warrant discussion, and then later we're going to talk about the ordinance. But John, you want to lead us through the dog warrant?
Sure. So what you have in front of you is the actual warrant itself that needs signed, and the clerk submits that. I have a copy of the list of dogs. I did not provide this in everybody's packet. It's people who had previously registered their dogs, and then we didn't get a copy of their license this year.
Okay.
There's 109 on the list.
108, I just licensed my dog today.
108 on the list. So, congratulations.
You don't want to do American.
In speaking with the clerk, this is pretty much in line with where we've been in previous years. We have about 500 folks who did register their dog. And that's, again, right in line, maybe slightly below where we have been historically. So this is pretty much on par with where we should be or where we have been.
Okay. So we're essentially just need a motion and then sign this?
A motion and sign it. And then this goes out to the constable and then they work, the constable, the animal control, they work to, send out notices to folks to see who will kind of come and trickle in and register their dogs.
Okay. And then later, we're actually going to get into more detail on the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. So I guess I would be looking for a motion to accept the letter authorizing constable or police officer to implement the ordinance.
I'll second it.
Or, okay, all in favor, say aye. All right. Okay.
That's it. If you want to sign and pass it along.
Mary did one year.
It's 90 days, so by October, all of these dogs should be.
We do our best.
How are we collecting fines?
So that's up to the, and we could talk about this under the dog ordinance as well. Maybe that might be better if we talk about it there, because we'll talk about fines and waiver fees there.
Okay. Next item of business is a update from the Hartland Planning Commission. They've been rather busy. And this evening we have Dave Dubshire here, who is the current chair. Dave, welcome, and we give you the floor.
Well, we've been going through the town plan chapter by chapter. Chapters are starting to come in. several we've already got done. We've had to slow down a little bit. This week, individually, we're all taking a different chapter and looking at it. Through the idea of trying to separate. Gosh, that word won't stay in my head.
Yeah, I can't remember it either.
Yeah, but basically, we got a decision in which the administrative judge said that all things look pretty equal. These guys have gone in this recent event. These guys have gone out and they've done all the work and they've checked in with everybody, and the only thing they need now is their Act 250 permit. And then he mentioned to us that in his decision in favor of the store, that the town plan just wasn't,
That's
in fact,
Aspirational, was it?
aspirational, is that what it is? Aspirational versus regulatory. It seems kind of strange to come out after 40 years of Act 250, but nonetheless. The Planning Commission has taken another look at the plan, and we're trying to put in different language. We're not using the word may or might, we're exchanging it for will and shall. When that arrives on your desk to look at, of course, we're gonna have to have a couple hearings first, but when that arrives on your desk to look at, it's gonna seem a little more strident than it had seemed at any time in the past. The bitterness is that for the towns have done everything right. And then on a judgment on language, the town was unsuccessful in keeping town plan as people thought it was going to be. We've looked at energy. We've looked at the language in chapter 10, which is really where you put the, one of a better term, the emphasis on what you want. So that's where we're at. Everybody's participating. There's been good participation. These guys all, guys on the committee all know a lot more than I do. And all I have to do is sit up front and look pretty. And in the meantime, I've been trying to keep word of the committee a limited discussion outside the committee, because things can run away from you. If someone says something that might sound regulatory, it just creates a problem for everybody. That's where we are, guys. And if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So Dave, the two chapters that were introduced that were the energy and the forest block,
Yeah,
and those will remain as new in this version that this.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Specifically, 1, 2, and 3 will have something in it. And 10, we're kind of talking back and forth. And that's where we're at.
Okay.
We're very well aware that our deadline is September 1st. There's a timeline for how these meetings go. And John, if you think of it, if you could send me a timeline of how you think these things ought to go, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
And in the meantime, and Phil can talk with us. I've been sending stuff out. And I'm trying to keep Phil notified of things that are new to me. There are rules in the state regulations about what, for example, what a planning commission is supposed to be doing. Well, I sent a copy of the show, of course, because I think, and sometimes happen, I won't say it. Let us leave it that I'm not sure the town plan, from my perspective, has really given the attention it should have gotten without a lot of other people getting involved or different people looking at changes or this, that, and the other. And we'll bring you something that you can work with. That's forthright.
Yeah, and referencing, Dave, some of the statutes that you were researching, I think it would, when the dust settles, I think for both commissions and committees, we need to look at how we as a town charge them and what we have written up about, what your overarching sort of working parameters are.
Sure. Because if you want me to send that out to everybody,
I can forward it to.
I want to tell you that if you look at that regulation, the planning commission is a pretty big deal. I want you to know, you're just lucky to be having a selectman right here to kind of listen to all the wonderful things we have to say.
Right.
Because as far as they're concerned, we're all you need.
Yeah.
Of course, you're gonna hire us 40 hours a week to get the work done. And I'm willing to negotiate that.
Right. Right. We'll check that into consideration on that point. Okay.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So I work for a regional planning commission. There's been a series of Supreme Court decisions that have basically made town plans go from being policy documents to wanting them to be more regulatory. And this is why they want to see this explicit language.
I see.
I think you're also going to be frustrated by the fact that we have no form of zoning bylaws. And then now what they do when they're looking at a town plan and it's unclear to them exactly, they look to the zoning bylaws. And I think a town of this size should be contemplating simple zoning bylaws to get us started on that track. There was a huge mistake a number of years ago when our first zoning bylaw was 82 pages long. That was bound for defeat.
Of course.
Of course. So and then secondly, we heard all this on the radio and so on. With the changes now to Act 250, it's now going to be incumbent upon the planning commissions to be very specific as far as their future land use plans and the like, and this whole policy about housing and so on. And so thank you for your services, but your job is getting harder and harder and more complex. And then finally, one last thing is,
Yeah.
I realize your frustration as far as trying to get the plan done, but there's also a very strong public participation component when you develop a town plan. So just be cautious, try to meld those two together because you're going to get criticized. That's
Thank you for your comments. I wish there was something surprising in them. But the document that we're going to come up with is hopefully, which you may edit a little, of course, is going to give us something that you can build from. Your comment on zoning, all my time in Hartland, I've been against zoning. I'm not anymore, because I see the consequence. And it's clear. And so simple zoning, and it doesn't have to be very difficult,
Exactly.
very large, but something that says A goes with B, goes with C, and this is what the town wants. And the Act 250 folks are not involved. The second thing we talk about, in trying to get the town plan done, and looking at places where the development ought to be, we're trying to be pretty clear that that's where we want it. You know, Depot Avenue and all, down in the back. And, I would remind you that at my time on the Windsor Select Board, we built the industrial park. And it's in a good location. It's down, it's out of the way, people have business, there's room for trucks. Simon Pierce has built a factory down, it's a nice place for the town of Windsor. And it's something Windsor needed in a place they could do it.
Mhm.
This is entirely different. This is really trying to come up with a plan. I've been looking at Woodstocks, I've looked at Windsor's, I've looked at Hartford's zoning, and it just kind of, it's nothing we need. Nothing we need. I mean, well, we gotta say, this business goes here, this business goes there. That houses belong here, houses belong there. And the other thing, and I would say as an aside, the other conversation we've been having is in trying to figure out how we can do the town plan so that there can be some residential growth in town. It's a little tricky. And fundamentally, one of the problems is there's no water. There's just no water. And so we'd have to come up with a plan for that. Well, once you start talking about water, then you gotta talk about sewage. And so for right now, we'll just give you something you can work with for the moment. But we're trying to build it, so if someone comes in and they wanna build some houses, we can make it a simple thing to do if they just follow a few rules. And I think working together, we can do that. The last thing I would say is that those of you guys who have experience with regional plans or development, it's perfectly cool to come to one of our meetings and sit with us and talk with us, because in the end, while we'll look like heroes or villains, you gotta live with it. So maybe you want to come talk to us a little more so we can talk about those political things, those impressionable things that we don't want to put into a document that could create problems. Just following up on Tom's comment.
Dave, are you or will you be using anyone from Two Rivers for either feedback or?
We always use them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We talked with them. In fact, we just got a bunch of maps down from them. And we're pulling those apart. We're actually making little cutouts and laying stuff out to see. Should this go here? Should go. Oh, what about so and so? No, we can't put it out there.
Yeah.
So we're at that point.
Great.
Okay. We're also well aware that Two Rivers is not going to appeal the decision. Preliminarily, we said we are going to appeal.
Right.
A couple folks want to revisit that.
Yeah, I understand that Two Rivers is not as well.
No, it's done. It's storage going in there.
Yeah.
Yep. I think.
Jim, Trace, Clyde, any questions for Dave?
When we're talking about simple zoning, we had interim zoning that was installed by the select board in the early 70s. Was when I built my house out on the Coochie Road. It was a minimum 1 acre lot, so many feet here. And then when they came back with the plan, they came back with a book like War and Peace. And that's, if you adopted the simple thing and built on it, but you can't, I know from being working over in West Windsor, their zoning ordinance over there is a blue.
Really?
Oh, it tells you how many chickens you can have if you have a flock of birds on your own property.
Oh, I can't imagine that.
Well, it's in there. But something really simple like lot sizes or whatever. And even though we love not having, everybody thinks we don't love houses out in my end of town. We've gotten some, but it would be nicer to have it not restricted to such a huge lot size that nobody can afford to buy it. you're pushing young people right out of town,
We know it.
so.
My son's family.
Yeah.
So, the real estate market is probably gonna swing back around in the next 5 or 6 years. We saw it in 1980, 1990. A whole bunch of people wound up underwater in mortgages and stuff. They'll probably come back again. And then maybe the kids can come in here and buy some of those, I don't know. But we gotta do it in some way. But the other is, if you look at the planning commission, it's perfectly cool for you to sell one of your acres. You can sell it. There's nothing in the town plan that says you can't. You can map out a acre over here. I sold that to so-and-so. There's nothing in it. It's not a developer. You're not doing anything and the town plan's not involved. Many times in town, I can think of two instances now in the last 10 years where an acre was sold here and an acre was sold there. It's not because nobody's paying attention, it's because it's not in the Act 250 rules. So nobody, well, if it's not in the Act 250 rules anyway, it's not hard to imagine putting in a zone so that people could buy an acre. People who develop a couple of apartment houses of the right height in a particular place that they want to be. And the challenge becomes the definition that we have in the town plan is rural, residential, rural village. And industrial. And so looking at that, we might want to think about adding a category so that folks in a particular, like we're having a lot of conversations about the blacktop. People could buy an acre or 2 acres on the blacktop on one of the state roads. That's okay, but a developer will have to get an Act 250 permit in order to do 7. Follow? Are you with me? Yeah. So, I don't think the plan that comes to you is gonna be perfect in that regard. I don't know what it takes to amend the text. But in looking at what we've got sitting here, for a community, we talk about the ball field, we talk about kids, we talk about Little League, talk about the recreational center, all the things that create a community where you got the young kids and the young families. We're not blessed with a lot of young families in town. And I think that's I know I'm running on, but I'm pretty passionate about this problem. We gotta find some way for the kids to come home.
My own family's that way. Trace, Jim, any comments?
I just want to say thanks, David, to you and the commission for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. All right.
You're
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
And
If you have any other questions, send me a note.
for sure.
Okay?
And
Thank you, guys.
thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, moving on to the dog control ordinance discussion and action.
So it's no action, just discussion. That was incorrect on the agenda. So what you have in front of you, and I know you just got it, earlier today, is by and large the model VLCT dog control ordinance. I filled in fees, the fee structure, incorporated some of the optional guidance, including the language for potentially vicious dogs and things like that. I apologize for the late notice, but the legislature passed Act 160 this year, which kind of amended, changed some of the statutory requirements for dog control, for animal control, and changed the authority of the animal control officers. And, they had said we might put out a new model ordinance. So I was trying to see if they were going to do that in August, then we could just wait on this for a little bit. But given all the other changes that happened in the legislature, particularly with open meeting law, their hands are full, so they're going to stick with this for the time being. So again, this is by and large the model ordinance. The two things I want to bring your attention to are the fees and waiver fees, the fines and waiver fees. And then if you look on in D, so section 7D, reckless dog owner, it does talk about a pre-approved behavior modification program by the select board. So essentially, if someone has violated the dog control ordinance twice within a 6-month period, you all can set forth a plan of action and say, these are the corrective actions you need to take prior to getting your dog back. Then it comes up again in section 8 and C, release from impoundment. Those are really the kind of big things there. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. It provides a little more teeth for impounding dogs and keeping them in impoundment. Making sure that they can, prior to just, as opposed to our current ordinance, which is we impound and you can just go pick up your dog, and then bill for some unknown period of time. So, yeah.
What percentage of the impoundments do the owners not actually pay the impoundment fee?
We don't do a ton of impoundments, but we have had trouble with a few folks who have had dogs impounded for significant periods of time, and have we've been footing the bill on that for 6 months or more, and we send them sternly worded letters asking them for payment, and we get nothing in response.
So can we have a policy that say after 30 days of impoundment, the dog will then be given to the shelter?
It talks
That
about
we no longer want to, because we've had some pretty hefty bills for people not paying for their impoundment.
correct. It does talk about that in section, again, under C in section 8. If the owner of the dog impounded refuses to take the remedial action necessary, it talks about kind of next steps there.
But there's no time.
So you're saying you want to put, like, if you don't do these things within.
It sounds like a lot of people where their dog is impounded may be irresponsible dog owners, and we're just hoping they're going to do the right thing.
Right. Well, that's
And my attitude is, let's give them a period of time and say, you have whatever.
Doesn't the second paragraph under C make that time 10 calendar days?
And why are we keeping dogs for 3 months?
We've not kept dogs necessarily for 3 months. Our current ordinance does not have this language.
Okay.
And it's been, I don't know exactly what the daily rate at the Humane Society is that we've had dogs, but it's a few folks in particular that this has been a recurring issue with.
Right. And I'm not advocating that the dog be destroyed or anything like that. I'm just wondering whether it can just be rehomed.
Yeah, this gives us more teeth, and that's something that Jim Armbruster, who's the animal control officer, had been looking for, and he's looked at this as well. So the next steps up here, barring any substantive changes, would be to schedule a public hearing that you would need to repeal the current ordinance and adopt this ordinance.
Okay.
Well, public hearing where that happens, or a public hearing to get input and then adopt it at a later time?
I need to verify, but I think for an ordinance, you don't need to have, there's not that significant lead time. It's a public hearing and then adoption, I believe, and I will verify that adoption can happen at that hearing.
I'd just like a chance to read through this.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Obviously, one of my questions, I haven't
Compare
read
to our
it either.
current one, right, come back, ask questions, and then go to that hearing process.
Okay, so we would like to have this again on the August agenda.
I mean, just you know, just so I can absorb it.
Yeah.
Right, compare it, and then question it maybe.
Well,
Can we
I
do,
think we can have the hearing and question at the same time.
Well, I mean, I think we ought to have a final, right? We ought to know that we're all comfortable with this, and we have a final to move forward with. For the
sure,
hearing.
sure. Well, can we do both? Is the
That's what
hearing
I'm saying.
could be warned in 30 days and we could tweak whatever document
What's
is
the
for the
warning
next meeting.
requirement?
It's public notice, newspapers, I think you have to provide a written summary in the paper of
It's
record.
15.
15. So we could do it for the August 19th, potentially for the August 19th meeting. And then, you know, giving you plenty of time, giving you time to read it, and barring any substantive changes, you know, if we want to, we can make minor amendments without kind of rewarming it. Or we could give you more time and, you know, push this into September.
Yeah, so we can have the public hearing, have it as an agenda item where we say we're gonna take action. If there's a lot of questions, we'll table it.
Right.
But, you know, we have this tendency to kind of drag things out, so.
Can I just say something? Your introduction to the ordinance on our town website, you give the definition of ordinance and policy. It says right there, a $500 up to $800 fee for violating an ordinance. So does that mean all the ordinances under that, including this one, could be up to an $800 fee?
This does not say that.
I am not familiar with that language on the website.
It's
So,
the introduction to, when you go under
Okay.
ordinances, it's the introduction page.
okay. We'll take a look. I can get back to you. I don't know the answer to that question.
So, and we're not collecting anything on these, you know, that it's, we're not.
You will see in this, just since we're talking about fines and fees, the fines did increase from, if you compare to the old ordinance, it was very, you know, $10, $15. They've gotten a little bit higher so that it's somewhat more meaningful. Although, you know, we do encourage folks to go to a waiver fee. That's why there's the waiver fee, so they can pay this waiver fee as opposed to going to court for a civil fine. Frees up our time. But the waiver fees are also, you have increased. And then we collect anything over $37 of the waiver fee or something. That goes to the Judicial Bureau.
I'm not really aware, I haven't really followed this. Is there a chance that there's a website that you can get on and register your dog on the website from your house?
Don't know if you can register a dog online.
I would be a terrible idea for people to make it more convenient for them to
Right.
register their dog.
The clerk and I have had, and Martin and Michelle and I have had multiple discussions about kind of making, you know, doing things like that online, more accessible.
Yes.
Whether it's, you know, registering your dog, you know, buying dump stickers, things like that.
Sure. So it's like, how many dogs would you guess that people own in the town?
So somewhere on the order of 700.
So you might be saving 700 visits to the town office if you had it on the website, so.
Yeah.
Not that we want to be isolated down here or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure you.
We like the visitors. By and large, we like the visitors who come in.
You do?
Yes. Yeah.
All of them?
I mean, they go upstairs. I'm down here, so they can, you know, we can take all 700.
They can pay it online. They can, okay.
They can't pay it online, there's a 50%
There is one.
surcharge.
Okay.
But there's a way to pay online. If you do pay online, it gives you the option of taxes, dump stickers, dog license, something else. And, so it can be done online.
It can be done. Currently it's a little clunky, so we
It's fine,
like,
But it can be done online.
Right.
Somebody called me Friday, a dump sticker and coupon, asked if she sent me a return receipt envelope, would I? Absolutely.
You also have a security issue, you make sure your
Yeah.
payment systems are, I think, PCI compliant, right? So you're not
Right.
jeopardizing people's credit card.
Right.
Yeah, that's my first reaction
But
is
that's
that
up
we're,
to, that's
if
up to the
there's,
website to make sure.
So
we have some owners. Yeah,
up to you to know that your vendor is compliant.
right. We'd have some ownership in that as well. Yeah.
That's the discussion that thought I'd hear.
okay, so where are we? going to not warn it until after the next.
So I guess that's where I'm not sure if there's been a
Okay.
decision made on that yet.
I'll read it in the next couple of days.
So put it on the August 19th agenda as, more in the public hearing. And barring any, wholesale changes that come from the board, once you've had time to review it, we can go from there.
So that'll be an action item on the agenda after the.
It would be a public hearing within the agenda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have that, and then
then-
under a regular board
And then
action.
have the regular board action, yes. Yes,
So does anyone know what a
I don't,
Placidicin bird is?
that's a good
I
one.
just looked it up, but we have it in our ordinance.
Yeah.
What is it?
P-S-I-T-T-A-C-I-N-E.
No, I don't, Tom.
It is a parrot.
Parent?
There you go. Well, now I do know.
Now I know, there's a few of these that don't really know what they are.
Right.
Okay, on that note, let's leave that behind.
Yes.
The next item is a debriefing discussion on the Mill Street Bridge. I said to John that enough time has passed that I had to briefly look back at my notes, but we at the meeting we had a representative from the state, V.S.A, and the engineering firm that they hired give us a presentation on what they thought was required to fix the bridge. A lot of discussion about if it's fixed with load limits change. And we still haven't had a public discussion with on the second bridge that we hired an engineer to look at the work. We kind of kicked around, but one of the things that came out as I look back at my notes was, in the interim, can we make the class 4 road a class 3 road and do some sort of upgrade? And what would be involved? But before we even entertain that, there's part of it in Hartland and not some of it not in Hartland. So it's a slippery slope, whichever way I look at this. Okay.
So we're still anticipating the final report from Hoyle Tanner and V-Trans in fall this year. So there's still, that presentation was their preliminary findings. They're gonna send us a final report. We can have, whether it's Laura or someone from Hoyle Tanner come back. It was my takeaway from that meeting in early July also that they have a covered bridge committee meeting in late August where this project specifically will be discussed. And I believe that's open to the public, and I'll make sure that information gets, disseminated out specifically to those, in particular those residents up there.
John, who is they have a meeting?
The Vermont Agency of Transportation.
Okay.
I believe the chair of the committee was here in attendance at that meeting.
Okay.
So.
Any other thoughts or things you want to add?
So, wearing my hat as an employee for the Greater Upper Valley Solid Waste District, I met last Friday with Seth Ames from Twin State Sand and Gravel, and they understand that whatever is going to happen with the bridges is going to be a long-term effort, but he thinks it would be worthwhile if John could join in and have a meeting with them to talk about what are some things that we can do in the short term that aren't going to be really expensive. And as Phil said, maybe upgrading the road. I don't know necessarily whether we want to upgrade it from class 4 to class 3, but just make it so it's more passable in the winter. There was discussion about moving the gates. There was discussion about if in the winter, if it was on a weekend or whatever, might the town of Hartland plow that portion of Quarry Road so that people can access,
From Route 5.
from Route 5, and the like. So again, purely in the discussion phase at this point, but I think, they want to work with us. And this is a, unfortunate situation. They are not happy, and it's more for liability issues because of all the trucks going in and out of there, getting gravel and stone, and they're just concerned about having an accident where someone is not paying attention in an automobile and they get hit by a dump truck full, and that would not be, that would be unfortunate. So
TT, who covers, like, so is there insurance that the town, our town has that covers the accident on the road if we're utilizing the road? Is there a law or anything?
So that was also mentioned, is that, do we have Greater Upper Valley and Twin State as additionally insured? We have had that in the past. I think Martin I think he thinks it's lapsed. Having Twin State and Greater Upper Valley as an additionally insured as you're using their properties at one point was on a policy. I think that's lapsed. So that's something to bring up. This is gonna bring up a whole huge can of worms, I'll tell you right now, because, you know, we gotta talk to the town of Hartford, your liability issues,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Well,
So-
that's headed in the right direction. though.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you very
I
much
think
for
they
doing
wanna
that,
make it
because
work.
That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the biggest issue here isn't really the covered bridges at all. It's the people that live on the other side of
Right.
it that have the right to get their kids to school, to have the oil trucks delivered, and those types of things. They live in our town, and our job is to take care of them. So
Right.
thank you very much for having that discussion.
Well, it's early on.
I mean, and again, V-Trans said during that meeting, their projected construction right now is 2028, 2029. So, you know, they're big discussions and they're gonna be lengthy, but we do have a little bit of time to have them as well.
Yeah, the most important thing I took away from that meeting, well, for me, in my brain, yeah, I think we made a mistake in this town in 2001 by under-engineering that new wooden bridge, right? Because now we've put ourselves in a catch-22. And until you get one of those bridges up to a reasonable load, you remain in a catch-22. So for the old bridge, he's feeling, 24,000 pounds, not 10,000 pounds.
Is that 24,000 pounds in the So I was under the
Not for
impression,
a fire truck or a,
it appeared to me that no matter what they did, it was never gonna be weight enough to have an oil truck or a fire truck go across it. So
Correct.
I think that you skip that concept, I mean, let them fix it, that's fine. Because it's just the look.
smaller oil truck and get an ambulance that's 16,000 pounds.
Right.
You
We can get
you get
the
things over there that you can't get over.
the new forestry truck,
Forestry truck.
things like that. We can get
Just
emergency.
kind of deadlines you, the bridges are never gonna be big enough to take care of the people that live on the other side. No matter what way you look at it, because the fire truck fully loaded is way more than that.
Yeah.
And so I think that we need to really look at the gate and the approach from that angle in the town, and I understand.
Right.
So I think if you get the weight limits up, you cover a lot of traffic.
It would help cover some of the
You're not
traffic.
gonna cover
Right.
emergency vehicles for,
Yeah, there's-
for fire. That's never gonna.
There's multiple options, you know, including something along the lines of like or an overweight permit that could be issued by the town, you know, special occasion type
And
things.
I'm also, as I mentioned at that meeting, the normal person that's looking at the Queechee covered bridge there by the Simon Pierce Mill Complex, just sees a pretty covered bridge. They don't realize that there's a concrete deck below it. And the concrete deck could carry much more weight than the wooden trusses can. So there's all sorts of, I think, options out there.
Well, and you remember, we are in the historic bridge program,
Yes.
and we may want to say, we no longer want to be in the historic bridge program. And then by doing that, though, we would not be eligible for this type of funding.
Certain amounts of money, right?
Because I did ask that question.
Yeah.
Martin,
And the state statute, all wooden bridges is 8 tons. The state statute. So even if you beef it up,
Right.
you
Well-
can only go to 8 tons per
Well,
statute.
it's just for residential traffic, we can issue an overweight permit for
Correct.
emergency vehicle.
But again, if we use the bridge, they hit the bridge, I mean, there's a fire on the bridge, that nobody even knew about.
Yeah, the bridges are symbolic. They're beautiful.
Absolutely,
That's all it is, though. It's never
Right,
gonna be
right.
what we need to be able to get to those
Right,
people's houses.
but it's cement deck on it, like Quincy did, you still got your pretty bridge, but now you can take a fire truck across that bridge.
Right.
That's why we went to steel beams underneath it, but they were talking about it being too low to the stream bed. And so, you know,
well,
It's the highway too.
It's not
with
what
just
they
the
got
deck
a lot
is
of
that
money.
the abutments and the support pieces also
Yeah.
have to be.
Right, well, that's the,
So,
which the state doesn't have.
this is,
Stay tuned.
the beginning prelude to many chapters ahead on this topic.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this evening, going on to the next item, we have a tax rate to pass. What I'd like to do is to divide this topic into 2 parts. If I'm correct, the first part is really just a formality. Voters have voted on taxes, and this was a mathematical piece to basically say, what's the tax rate going to be? Let's look at that, and then I would like to make a statement and introduce a number of topics related to it that I'd like us to sort of talk about for a while and possibly create an action going forward.
But just keep in mind, if you're introducing new topics, they're not warned, and we didn't adjust the agenda of our first act of business.
They're all about property taxes.
Are they about the tax?
Yes. Right. The implication of how we got to the tax rate. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
this is, you all have in your packet, it just needs a signature. It's something that gets done every year before the tax bills can be sent out. I think Phil touched on it a little bit. I think we're all aware of the tax rate situation, but at this point, this is a formality to sign and formally set the tax rate, and then the tax bills can go out.
Is the math right?
The math is correct.
Okay.
Checked and double checked.
Make a motion that we sign the tax rate document.
I do want to hold off because of that. Property taxes are due as follows with 2 payments. One of the things I'd like us to talk about is changing the payment schedule. So if we can just make a motion to approve the.
I think that's what he did. He just.
Okay,
approved the
we
tax
did,
rate.
okay. Okay, then before we sign anything, okay.
Does anybody second it?
Is there a second? To accept the rates.
That's the motion on the table.
Yeah, I'll second that. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, tax rate passes.
What is the tax rate?
Should go through what the rate, make up the rate. He's asking.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we can just read this. We're talking, if we talk specifically about the homestead tax rate, it's 0.3706 for the town, 0.3053 for the highway, 0.0038 as local tax, 0.0068 as county tax, The school non-homestead is 2.3039.
The total.
And it's, sorry, and the total is 2.9905. Thanks.
Yes, for Mark, what was it last year?
The total tax rate last year for homestead was 2.4709.
And on the school side, what were the numbers?
The homestead school was 1.8202 last year.
And what is it this year?
This year, school resident 2.3039.
We should just say what the non-resident rate is.
Sure, and the non-resident rate, as for the school is, this year is 2.0159. Last year it was 1.7118. So again, for non-residents, this year the tax rate is 2.7025. Last year it was 2.3625.
Okay. Any other questions online?
No questions online.
Okay. I think we have a property tax crisis in our town. We know it, and in the state. I'm going out on a limb, but the select board, we realize that the increase in property taxes is not really sustainable. Again, I believe it's a we, but we support the work of the school board, both in their efforts to trim the current school budget as much as possible, as well as to educate our children. I would like ourselves, the board, to consider the following actions. Have our town manager write to each of our area representatives and senators, stating that the issue of school funding needs to be addressed. I would like to change the dates that the taxes are due from 2 payments to 4 payments. We'll discuss that. And then I would like to have John request that the Hartland Board of Listers, our area district advisor, as well as the district advisor, Cy Bailey, who is a past resident of town, join an upcoming select board meeting to explore the existing problems and hear suggestions for any fixes that could contribute to solving some of the issues that drive or contribute to the property tax crisis. So I just want to know, that everyone to know that we are certainly empathetic that this is a big increase. I think my increase is in the 20% range. And that's going to be a big ouch for me when it comes. There's not a whole lot we could do. We've been pretty good stewards with handling the municipal side, and we need to continue to do that. But I do feel that I did write to our state representatives, as many of you did, and I think of something coming from John as for the town of Hartland would be just a reminder that let's not drop the ball on this. If you're in sync with that, I don't think we need a motion or anything. It's just a request of John to do that.
For the letters.
For that.
The letters.
And I think it's.
I'm comfortable to draft a letter and send it out to those folks that you referenced.
Okay, good.
You're allowed to ask other questions other than that tax rate, like about current use. that sort of thing, if you have to, side yard.
Are you saying the impact of current use on the property taxes? Or just in general?
In general, I mean, if he's gonna be here, are we allowed to discuss other things?
I think it'd be a fair question to ask when they come
That's up to you guys.
in that discussion,
When who comes?
when the district advisors and the board of listers
Okay.
are present at the meeting.
Okay,
Correct.
great. I'll keep my fire.
Yeah. Not now, because we're
No,
talking
no.
specifically about the tax rate, but at the future meeting, yes,
Yes.
that's a yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a great idea of moving the 2 payments to 4, but that could allow, to lower the impact on people's paychecks going out the door to pay our taxes. I briefly spoke to Martin and to John. If I recall correctly, we would need a new form because there's 2 stubs on the current front. And we need to advertise, this change. This still doesn't prevent someone from still paying just twice if they want to. They're paying once.
I think it's a fine idea. I would say that town administration needs to vet it, right? And try to understand the unintended consequences. For me personally, quarterly payment would be probably easier than the big chunk twice a year.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do it this fiscal year. I think you gotta dot the i's, cross the t's, announce it, right? It's a change, right? All the documentation we have so far, is the old way, and you do it for the next cycle.
I think it has to be voted for people, not the board to change tax rates.
Not to change the tax rate.
I mean, to change payments. I think it's up to the voters to set the date of taxes.
The
I've
date,
never voted on that before.
We did years ago.
But we should then do it annually.
We did the 2 payment system years ago to ease, so we didn't have to borrow money. But it's supposed to be that the voters of the town set the due dates for taxes.
I can find that out, yeah.
But regardless, I would love to go to 4 payments. I just don't think it's fair to dump this on, town administration the day before tax bills get printed.
sure, I already dumped it on it a week or 2 ago when we first started talking about this, but I agree that especially if in fact there was a vote at town meeting, to go from 1 to 2.
We'll have to do an article in town.
If
Or
needed.
we could do it on election day.
So I've talked to a few other people and other towns, town clerks and finance people, and they have an article every year.
Right.
To do that, but like Clyde said, it was voted on, so that's why it's put on this sheet instead, because it's already been voted on.
I just,
And
I think people are going to be surprised at the
Absolutely.
increase.
there's
And
absolutely
they're
no
gonna
doubt.
have 2 months, less than 2 months to come up with the additional funds to pay their property taxes. And so,
I agree, because you're looking at a little over $500 per 100,000 per year.
so I agree with Phil if there's somehow that we can increase the number of installments. But I also don't think if we want to go in that direction, we have a general election coming, a presidential election coming up in November, that we should probably target that. We're gonna get more voters probably for that than we will get at town meeting. So I think that would be a good opportunity to have that, as something to, at least to consider.
You gotta check with the listeners, because right now, town issues are decided at town meeting, not, right, unless you're a special,
Yes.
a special town meeting.
Yeah, any action that required a town vote would be too late because these tax bills are gonna go out this week, presumably,
So-
with the 2 payment schedule.
I would also like to make a statement about the taxes, and as people may know, I'm the former chair, school board chair, and also the supervisory chair, and I was in that capacity for 4 or 5 years. But this year, Hartland was in the top 10 as far as percent increase in the education tax. And for the last number of years, our taxes in town going to the school keep increasing at a rate that is not sustainable. And then secondly, now wearing my select board hat, people who have been listening to us, talking about the capital needs of the town, we need, as a town, to raise our taxes, to pay for improvements to the rec center, to the daycare center, to the library, to Damon Hall. And we, as a board, are always very, very cognizant about what the school tax rate is going to be and the impact on the voters. And so I'm pleading with the school board and the supervisory union to really look hard and deep. And if you need to hire a consultant, but look at how you're doing things, because we need to make changes on how this is going to work. I'm also pleading to the legislature. My understanding this year, they're going to do a 2-year study to try to determine how they're going to fund education. And I think it's unfair to the voters to have to wait 2 years to figure this out. And if, when they do proceed to look at a new funding strategy, please create a formula that people can understand. We have asked over the last year to come and to talk to us and to explain to us how it works. And no one has ever been able to explain it to us. Our legislators cannot explain it to us. And so it's unfair and overly complex, and we're taxing people out. We talked earlier tonight about the cost of housing in this town. Now we're having this problem with taxes. And one of the differences that we have in Hartland compared to other high tax towns is generally higher tax towns like Windsor, their property assessments are lower. So it doesn't hurt as much. So now we have high property values and high taxes. I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, it's certainly a convergence that none of us really saw coming. Yes, it was coming down the road a piece, but it's here. And I think that goes to the final request that we ask if there's anything that can be done from the Hartland Board of Listers and our district advisors' perspective to get going on catching up, or what can be done in town itself.
Maybe check with the lawyer, see if we can take the school by eminent domain and all that stuff.
Let's not kid here.
There are 2 questions online. Kurt has a question. There we go.
Hi. So I appreciate Tom's passion, but I think aiming your arrows at the school board is backwards. They're also victims in this thing. The school budget goes up steadily because the legislature keeps putting onuses, expensive onuses, on the school board without giving them any money to pay them. So they end up with about 5% of their budget that's discretionary, and the rest of it is mandated by the state. So where we should have put our effort, and I think this has been going on for months, is with the legislature. They knew about this problem coming in January. They didn't start working on it until March. And then when the governor offered a solution that would have dropped the average tax increase from 13.8% to 4 or 5%, it would have presented some terrible financial challenges for the state. But those are challenges over which the legislature had control, whereas the property owners, property taxpayers, and the school board didn't have any control. So the legislature has burdened us with less tax increase than we originally thought we were going to have. And we're relatively average. Killington's tax rate increase is about 50%. And one of their problems is they haven't been reappraised in 11 years, and they had extraordinary property value increases during COVID. And the reappraisal really isn't going to do anything, apparently, but document the market value that the state's assigned anyway. So it's not going to relieve. We really have to put the pressure on the legislature. As you said, that 2-year study is ridiculous. It's the only thing in the state constitution that the state is required to do is to provide education to Vermont kids. And yet it ends up, they went from 22% of the state budget 10 years ago to 16% now. And the education fund lost in that loss of percentage, they lost, like $1 billion. So I think the education system and the funding of it is a tragedy, and we really need to make sure the legislature does something about it ASAP, and something drastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
There's one other question online. Can we recommend not charging interest? Can we, by we, I assume we're talking about the board here, not charging interest until December 31st instead of monthly?
I would ask you and Martin, representing the finance office, to research what the impact of that is.
They can do that.
I don't understand what you mean.
They don't want us to charge interest if they're late in their payment. So you're basically giving them till December to pay without penalty.
So if they don't make the September payment, we don't charge interest till January 1st, so they get.
Well, again, it's just
Right.
whatever the number is, that's
The
it.
reason we charge interest is so we get the payments, so the town doesn't have to borrow money and pay interest.
This is the question.
Yep.
If we were to waive the interest for the 2 months, I would suspect we would see a whole lot of payments coming in November and December, as opposed to on time.
Right.
And we've traditionally held strong to the, you come in the next day, there's still the penalty assessed. It's a little black and white, but it's worked.
Okay, and the third thing I had was to set up a meeting with our board of listers, the district advisors, to have a discussion about where we are and what's going on.
So my recommendation for that would be September.
Let's see you in September. Okay. See you then.
And then you do need to actually give this to you and send it down.
There is no reason that you have to wait till the due date to pay your taxes.
Understand.
You can budget your money and pay it monthly, weekly, whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
There's plenty of reasons to do it. You don't have the money
Well,
to pay
true,
it. I mean, I find that putting people's name in the town report for not paying their taxes is kind of like a sale in witch hunts, and you might as well just stone them in public. It's just a terrible thing to do to people.
The new guy on the board has to do that, Chase. That's the,
I know.
okay, any other discussion on the tax rate that we can discuss without, as Jim said, we have certain parameters, we can't take action on anything or anything, but I I do agree with Tom and others have voiced it, that it's going to be a negative reaction, when this happens, and I'll scream out as well. So I think I don't want to drop this in our discussions, and let's see what we can do and get that pressure on our Montpelier representatives as soon as we can. Okay, are you looking for the town manager update?
No, I'm ready.
Okay.
Can we ask one question? So we are going to ask for them representatives to come here so we can talk to them?
We're going to ask the Board of Listers and the Listers District Advisors to come to the September meeting, not local representatives.
Okay.
But that was my understanding.
Yes.
We can, okay.
Yeah, so we're just writing a letter to those representatives saying, we as the town and the select board would appreciate some action on this topic.
Can we ask them to come to a meeting?
Our legislators?
Legislators.
Sure.
Why can't
Are you sure?
they? I'm not sure I want to meet them. I would love to.
Sure.
We can talk to them.
So you'll get into some politics, given that there's an election coming up?
I won't say a
So-
word about anything.
No, but then we should probably, after the primary, invite a Republican candidate and a Democratic candidate instead of waiting till after the election. And then before they go to Montpelier in January, maybe talk to them and see about it. And the other thing, just to clarify, I'm curious as to why, and I went through the list of all the increases in property taxes. It seemed as though Kurt mentioned Killington, a lot of Upper Valley towns were on that list as having in percentage terms, having high increases. And I don't know why. It's fascinating. Thetford was high, we're high, Woodstock is high, I think, and then Killington were sort of.
Part of the formula that they use makes sure that the poorer towns get equal money to run the education in their schools, and the richer towns pick up the tab for that. We're called the Gold Coast towns, even though we don't have a coast and we don't have much gold. But that's just the way it is.
Right, and yes, Kurt, that's the purpose of how the current law was set up, so to equalize the education funding across the state. Okay, let's move on. Moving on.
Moving on. Highway truck status, start where we always do. Everything's working. They're all in operational.
What about other equipment? Is other equipment working?
All equipment is, as of right now, I mean, it's all parts.
Well, we only have 2 on the road
Right.
now.
Everything's working.
You guys gonna have to start a pool, you can keep each kicking a bucket.
Right. No.
No, I'm changing the agenda item. I'm leaving it right there.
We're exactly, adjournment.
I moved to adjourn.
And then a high note. Yeah.
Voodoo.
Right. No, everything's operational. The 550 is back. It's been pulling the chloride trailer. They were pulling a hot box, doing putting in some hot mix in some of the bigger potholes today. That was Windsor's hot box that Windsor sent with a crew member, and then we have the ability to then rent it from the town of Windsor for future operations. And the hot box is nicer because it allows them it makes it easier to do the work as opposed to you going data load, and as it cools down, it gets harder and harder to work with as they come back towards town.
Can you
So-
explain to the average citizen what a hot box is?
As far as I
It's not
understand,
affordable song.
as far as I understand it, it is you put patch in there and it keeps it warm and pliable so that it is easier to work with.
It stays hot.
Yeah.
So instead of going from the pit to there and it cools down by half.
Yeah.
That's,
Just, you can go to your local
sorry, yes.
supply store to buy cold patch.
Right.
But this is hot patch.
So the Jennyville box culvert project is underway. They're dealing with some unexpected groundwater. somewhat surprisingly. So they've been running a couple of sump pumps to try to keep the hole dry. The crane and the box are expected to come later this week. And then it'll be another week or so after that for the project to wrap up. But they're still largely on schedule.
Just a sidelight for that, I went down to the site yesterday, day before, and one of the two guys that were there said, well, the fellows that built the original culvert were a hell of a lot more rugged than they are today for the size of the stones. They put up.
Oh, all right. So that is underway, and then that's gonna free up that section of Jennyville, and then the lower section of Jennyville, in later August, we'll be doing some ditch work that didn't get done last year, so it's still gonna be, it'll be a tough road to pass until fall.
Is there something up above Dodge Lane going to be fixed too?
Correct, the retaining wall,
Yeah.
the block retaining wall is being fixed as well. That's a very short-lived project then. Yeah.
Near
Yep.
Dodge Lane.
By Dodge, the waste block retaining wall. In the flood last summer, it's my understanding, it didn't take it particularly well, and it's just kind of leaning out into the brook, so we have a contractor coming to fix that. We do have a new highway crew member. They started last week. They're in CDL school. That's Monday through Thursday. They are working on Fridays. All things go well, they will have they'll take the test next week. And then just in time to do a lot of trucking for the Jennyville project that's happening after the box culvert. So they'll get some good windshield time, some good learning opportunities there. So it's going really well. This was shortly after the 4th of July. We were having some water line issues within Damon Hall, and quite a bit of sediment buildup, particularly as it was going to both restrooms. It turns out that the pressure tank had gone bad, so we had to have that replaced. Valley Artesian was able to squeeze us in, within 2 days. Then we did put a filter. There was no filter, so the water was coming from the well to the pressure tank and then going straight from the tank to the lines. They did put essentially a sediment filter on there to try to catch some of that. Just something we'll have to take care of a couple times a year, but just like everybody's house has those as well. So, North Hartland School Committee met last week to talk about the inspection report. The next steps it was a pretty sparsely attended meeting due to some scheduling conflicts, but by and large, the group would like to see the town get an estimate for the work that needs to be done up there. And a lot of it is kind of small, but some of it is going to have a pretty heavy price tag. There's some pretty significant ADA compliance issues at the building. There's the electrical probably needs to be replaced. Some lead paint, some asbestos, presumed lead paint, presumed asbestos that needs to be, covered.
Does it cost money to get an estimate?
I don't believe it's going to cost us money to get an estimate, but I think we can safely think that estimate's going to say somewhere $75,000 would be my baseline, right? Yeah, I'm in agreement, and I think by and large the committee who were there at this past meeting are understanding that it's going to be an expensive fix.
They coming up with ideas for what we would use it for?
There are a lot of ideas, nothing concrete.
I think it's hard to get an estimate when you don't know the use.
Correct.
Well, we talked about it really being at a catch-22 at this point. We don't know how much it would cost to even fix the building.
Right.
Before some of the uses that were out there. So we thought, because one of the options still is to carve off a small piece of acreage and sell that building and that small acreage, as an option. Right. Okay. So, I hope we can get an estimate. I understand what Jim is saying, just.
It's two estimates, one to make it inhabitable, right? And the other to design it for your use, right? I'll give you an estimate, I'll make a bet it's $250,000.
this guy right here.
I make that motion.
Yeah. We're signing our paving contracts this week, so this year's paving schedule is, looks positive. All of Mount Hunger Road, including replacing the culvert at the Gilson roadside. Gonna do a top coat on all of Ferry Road. We have
Mount Hunger, Gilson.
Mount Hunger, both ends of Mount Hunger. Ferry gets the top coat. The Chute Road, all of Chute Road is getting repaved.
You just quickly said, what part of Ferry Road?
I believe all of Ferry Road is getting a top coat. All of Chute Road, we were initially just gonna patch the top, but based on the budget and the quotes we were getting, we were able to come in under, on budget to do the whole road. And we have that V-Trans grant to do, shim and top coat the Brownsville Road. And, we're moving forward with the understanding that we can also do the apron to Best Road at that time as well. All for the budget that we had set.
That's great, and that's a lot of work.
Right.
Stuff to list.
It's a lot of paving. I mean, some of that is like top coat. That's not a long-term solution, but it's still, it does a lot of work. So, and then,
So just while we're on that, I've gotten 2 comments from people who have been driving their tractors on the Brownsville Hartland Road and going up the hill and looking over at the side there, and there's a lot of concern that there seems to be continual erosion
yes,
under the road
at the top.
at the top. And are we gonna try to coordinate with West Windsor?
So we are,
But they're just saying it looks, they have a bird's eye view, obviously, so.
no, it is kind of terrifying. So we are going to do a temporary solution. We did a temporary patch last year that, that was kind of an emergency repair. We have a quote from a contractor to do another more permanent temporary repair. So again, putting up some temporary traffic lights on either side and then cutting out the pavement, cutting out one lane of pavement, keying in some larger stone down at the bottom there, and then backfilling that. It's about $25,000. I think it's at this point, a bit of a life safety issue because the guardrail is not attached to the ground in some spots. So we're gonna move forward with that. And I was speaking with the stream alteration engineer last week about what potentially might be a long-term solution that does involve coordinating with West Windsor, because that stretch of that river is right on the top line.
So that 25,000 includes, tearing out the existing or putting in new retaining wall of some sort in there, putting the guardrail systems back, and then repaving the tar road that's gonna be paved before it happens?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. New guardrails, so we're not, using those guardrails that.
The stone that come out of the culvert on Jenny, they're using that there for headers and stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I can ask them that question, because if they're not, we could potentially reuse that, because that quote came from the same contractor.
Sideline, I do appreciate you getting the grader up on the
Yes.
hill there.
Yes.
My best, whatever.
Yeah, Best is gonna take a bit of a beating, because of the constant detours, especially on that steep hill that they regraded.
It's pretty washboardy.
Right. And then lastly, just I said all the highway trucks are operational. That doesn't mean we're exactly happy with all of them. The highway crew would like to take the new GMC, the brownish green?
That's green?
I wouldn't call it green. I'm gonna call it brown.
All right.
And take the bed off of it and put a flat bed on, so they can put the hydroseeder in there, put the sander on there. The quote for that is about $7,500 for an aluminum one. That's gonna get us some life out of that as well. And that's, when they pull the sander out, if it's not cleaned out on a routine basis, I guess there was some weeds growing in the back of the truck, one of the trucks, sand spills out. So it's the recommendation from the road foreman. It seems to make a lot of sense. We have the money available right now to do that. So
this is just an FYI.
that's just an FYI. There's no action required, but if you see what might look like a new truck in town, it's not. It's actually just right. And we can get that done pretty quickly, just in Claremont, so.
When do we think, it's the height of summer and there's been no chloride on any of my roads.
So we did just get the FI-50 back that pulls the chloride trailer, maybe 2 weeks ago. Since that time, when they have gone to go out, it has also corresponded with some rain. So as opposed to wasting the chloride, they're trying to hit it as when it's dry and dusty, but yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay.
Okay, future agenda items as well as next meeting date. Our next meeting would have been this coming Monday, so what John and I talked about is dropping that and going to whatever that date is in August, that we would have it.
August 19th.
Okay.
We have nothing to do on Monday. We should meet Monday. We should meet Monday. Let's talk about it in our next agenda item.
Okay. So keep it regular.
Keep it for now. We can cancel it.
Okay.
And then at the August 19th meeting, we anticipate having Pathways come and present the findings from the Queechee Road study. In addition to other business.
If you drive on Route 5 into White River from Hartland, you get an understanding of what it's like when they replace the base.
Oh, it's awful.
That's all,
I would not
that's
know.
all new base.
So many flat tires and posted, so
I
I
got
don't
it.
take that route.
I got a new cracked windshield on that, so.
There you go.
And,
But no, my point is, it takes a long time, which I think we need to do on Queechee Road.
and
It's
Oh,
quite
absolutely.
it is quite an undertaking.
Oh, absolutely, because it was built on mud.
Yeah.
and the traffic light at the Queechee Gorge, traffic was backed up going west all the way beyond, I still call it Timber Village, whatever it's called.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
It's
Wow.
just, at times it's only one light change and you're through it, but, there's times when it's pretty bad, so. Any other whining anyone else wants to do about today?
No, it was just an observation that
Yeah.
when we do go to do Queechee Road,
I,
people need to understand, it's, what they're doing now on Route 5 is what we're gonna be doing there.
Right.
It's gonna take some time.
to be determined.
To be determined. I'm just saying, my point is, replacing a base is a large undertaking.
It's a big project.
Yeah, I remember when they did four, between Bridgewater and Woodstock, and it was that big rock.
Well, no, we're gonna try to stay with 9.
I ordered pizzas to come in.
And beer.
Can we add a future agenda item just so it's on the list?
Yep.
For the North Hartland School, just so it's on there right now.
Okay,
So I have a bone about these future agenda items. They're future agenda items, but we never address them.
So
I mean, so why, I don't understand the purpose.
I think they are on the list. They say there so we don't drop the ball. What continues to happen though is that things crop up that need addressing, and in an effort to keep meetings not going until 9, Phil and I try to, estimate how long the discussions will take, and so they do. Some continue to stay on the future agenda item list for what may seem like a long time. But yes.
okay. Then we have an executive session tonight.
Correspondence.
Oh,
There,
is there any?
there is no correspondence.
I would like to make a motion.
Just following the process here.
I'd like to make a motion that we enter executive session pursuant to 1 V.S.A. 317C7.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And there will not be